Welcome to this explainer. So today we're diving into some fascinating source material that honestly, it completely reshapes how we process reality. I mean, we live in this era where information is literally everywhere, right? But actual deep understanding, that is incredibly rare. So today we're going to take that overwhelming flood of modern information and transform it into a highly structured, reliable system for your own personal evolution. Basically, we're building your architecture of awareness. Let's kick things off with a question that really ought to challenge all of us. Why do we repeat our mistakes? There's this deeply held assumption out there that just going through life, that time alone naturally makes us wiser. But, time just passes. Growth is absolutely not automatic. The source material makes this super clear. Just having an experience doesn't actually guarantee you'll understand it. And this quote brilliantly hits the nail on the head. Experience is not what happens. Experience is what happens plus how we interpret it. This completely explains why two different people can live through the exact same event, say a super stressful project at work, a major failure, or some huge life change, yet only one of them actually grows from it. One person just sort of survives the event. The other? They reflect on it, they extract the lessons, and they actually allow it to shape their character. This whole distinction really comes down to our daily habits. Think about passive experience versus intentional observation. Passive experience is the default, right? It's just letting life happen to you. But intentional observation, that is an architectural, structured way of engaging with reality. It's waking up to the fact that you are constantly receiving data from the world and actively choosing to pay attention before you blindly judge or react. So, how do we actually construct this thing? Well, here is our agenda for today. First up, the illusion of experience. Second, reflection and journaling. Third, your knowledge architecture. Fourth, memory and mental models. And finally, achieving true wisdom. We are going to build this architecture of awareness layer by layer, moving all the way from raw, unfiltered data right up to transcendent wisdom. Section 1. The illusion of experience. Moving from passive living to active observation. You see, observation is the absolute foundational step for any kind of discovery and awareness. Think about it. Before scientists form theories, they observe. Before doctors diagnose, they observe. You have to observe your external world and your internal emotions if you really want to grow intentionally. And the source gives us a very concrete procedure for this called the experience integration loop. It goes like this. Step 1, you have an experience. Step 2, you engage in observation. So just noticing the facts and your emotions without instantly judging them. Step 3 is reflection. And step 4, it shapes your identity. So observing an experience loops right back around to fundamentally change who you are, which in turn completely changes how you observe your very next experience. It's just this continuous, beautiful engine of growth. Moving on to Section 2, reflection and journaling, thinking made visible. Now, to actually process our daily observations so they don't just vanish into thin air, we need what's called a reflection intelligence engine. Check out this definition. Journaling is not writing. Journaling is thinking made visible. I absolutely love this because it completely reframes the whole concept of journaling. We're not talking about a teenage diary where you list what you had for lunch. No, this is a personal laboratory for your long-term growth. Reflection acts as the processor, and your journal is the external memory drive that preserves those hard-won lessons for your future. So, in practice, what does a structured daily learning cycle actually look like? Well, the human operating journal isn't just staring at a blank page. It's highly structured. It uses specific categories: today's purpose, observations, emotions, lessons, and, this is absolutely crucial, future self-advice. You kind of have to imagine it as a direct conversation with your future self. By writing all this out, you're literally creating an external timeline of your own evolution. That makes it so much easier to recognize life patterns that you would otherwise completely miss. All right, Section 3, your knowledge architecture, organizing the internal library. So now we're shifting gears a bit. We're moving from our lived daily experiences to the actual acquisition of formal knowledge. This is the knowledge integration engine. The source material maps out some core domains here: self, humanity, nature, creation, and meaning. See, knowledge is really only valuable when it's organized into an accessible architecture like this one. If you just go around collecting random, disconnected facts, you're never going to get deep understanding. But if you architect your mind with these structured domains, your knowledge becomes easily retrievable and deeply interconnected. It's a real game changer. And how do we fill that internal library? Through some very diverse pathways, specifically the 9 forms of learning. We don't just learn from reading books, right? We learn conceptually. We learned experientially through taking action, observationally by watching others, reflectively, relationally through our conversations, spiritually, creatively, through systems thinking, and finally, through wisdom. Deliberately categorizing these pathways ensures that we're continually upgrading our mental operating system from literally every possible angle. Which brings us to Section 4, Memory and Mental Models, Retrieving and Applying Understanding. Here we enter the cognitive architecture engine. This is where we tackle the mystery of exactly why we forget things and how experts organize their minds to think so differently from the rest of us. It all comes down to mental models. These are simplified conceptual frameworks that help us understand a really complex reality, solve problems, and spot patterns. The source material emphasizes that human memory is not a static hard drive. It's not a dusty warehouse. It's a living, breathing, interconnected network. You don't just memorize an isolated fact. You connect it to a broader conceptual framework, like cause and effect or opportunity cost. Now, to actually store those models, we can use something called the method of loci, better known as the memory palace. This is where you anchor abstract concepts to highly familiar physical spaces. Imagine walking through your own house. The front door represents your identity. The living room holds your values. Walk into the kitchen, that's health. Head into the library, that's your knowledge. Anchoring abstract concepts to physical spaces like this drastically improves your recall, simply because the human brain is naturally hardwired to remember spatial relationships. Moving on to Section 5, Achieving True Wisdom, Integrating Truth, Love, and Purpose. We have reached the ultimate goal of the human operating system, the wisdom integration engine. This is where we integrate truth, love, and purpose into how we actually live our day-to-day lives. The source defines wisdom as the successful integration of truth, love, understanding, experience, and purpose into one's way of living. And this is a huge distinction. While knowledge is fantastic at answering what is true, wisdom is entirely different. Wisdom is what's required to answer what is the right thing to do. The contrast here is pretty stark. Think of it this way. Knowledge is what fills the mind and understands relationships between things. Wisdom, however, is what guides your life and discerns the right action to take. It really goes to show that accumulating a bunch of facts is completely useless unless you actually apply them ethically, practically, and compassionately to the real world. And wisdom isn't one-dimensional either. It operates across multiple facets of our lives: intellectual, practical, emotional, relational, moral, spiritual, systems, and legacy. Breaking down these dimensions really shows us that true discernment touches literally every single facet of human existence. It's not just about being the smartest person in the room. It's about managing your emotions wisely, building relational trust with others, and genuinely thinking about the legacy you are going to leave behind for future generations. Now for our final section, awareness expansion, transcending personal development. This is the point where we transcend standard personal development and focus on expanding the very boundaries of our perception and consciousness. We turn it into an ongoing life cycle called the awareness spiral. Step 1, observe. Step 2, question. Step 3, learn. Step 4, reflect. Step 5, integrate. And step 6, act. And then the whole thing repeats. This perfectly illustrates how our awareness is continually widening and refining itself through this endless upward spiral of growth. It is never a final destination. It's an ever-expanding capacity to perceive reality with more and more clarity and depth. Which brings us to this incredibly profound final thought from the source material. Wisdom is not measured by how much you know. It is measured by how well your knowledge is organized, connected, and applied. I mean, wow, that just perfectly summarizes the real stakes of building an intentional mental architecture. Ultimately, it's about transformation, not just gathering information. So, I'm going to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to wrap up our explainer today. What is life trying to teach you today? Seriously, think about it. Are you going to let today's experiences just passively pass you by? Or are you going to observe them, reflect on them, and actively integrate them? Thank you so much for exploring this with me. Now it's time for you to step back into reality as an active, intentional architect of your own awareness.